So this came out. I'm sick. So yes, here we have it at long last, the AH-64D longbow, in this case, Apache attack helicopter. Arguably one of the most famous helicopters, at least military helicopters, in the world. I mean, even non-military buffs know there was the running gender joke a few years ago of I identify as an Apache attack helicopter. That's this helicopter. I mean, odds are you know what this helo is, and myself and I'm sure many, many others have been super eager to get our hands on it. Kiowa just sat down there in the background. It's another upcoming module, but truth be told, I could care less about the Kiowa compared to the longbow. You're gonna have to bear with me today. I am very, very under the weather. One of my coworkers made the rather selfish, in my opinion, decision to continue to come into work despite his wife getting sick from her teaching job, and then him subsequently getting sick, and now I am subsequently sick. I am making the choice to stay home. Anyway, I'm under the weather, a little bit cranky. I will make do, and hopefully you guys don't roast me too hard. Anyway, we're going to be doing a quick startup in the Apache today. Quick startup, quick takeoff guide, navigation, and maybe a couple of landings in the process. We are not today going to be looking at the weapon systems. That will come in another video soon, but it's also worth noting that with this being an early access build of the Apache, that the FCR, the flight control radar, does not exist. So it's not fully functioning yet. That is going to be fully functioning soon. It is just not yet. So anyway, back into the pilot seat. Let's get our takeoff, or startup rather, underway. Alright, so in the cockpit of the Apache, the first thing I'm going to do is close my cockpit door just so I can talk a little bit quieter and save my voice. The startup procedure on the Apache is very, very, very simple. I'm sure by now those of you guys have seen Eagle Dynamics, Matt Wagner's video on starting the Apache. Very simple, and you'll create your own flow process that kind of not deviates from, but selectively completes parts of the very long checklist that's provided in the documentation for this module. I've done that, and you guys can feel free to do the same for this video. But nonetheless, let's get the start process underway. And our very first thing here is going to be our power switch. So it's actually labeled master ignition, but this is where all of your power systems are going to be elected from. So you have off, battery, and external power. We're going to go ahead and select battery. And if I come back to the center here, you see we've got our central display is now active, and we've got, you know, our different VHF radios. Those will come into VHF and UHF radios will come into play as we further power up the aircraft transponder. A couple of annunciators, our tail wheel is locked. We can unlock it and relock it. And our accumulator oil pressure is low. And then our time down on Zulu, as well as fuel. Next up, as you might have already guessed, the big ol' APU switch. It's guarded. I'm going to go ahead and start our APU. And you get a nice little flame out of the back of the aircraft as the APU starts. Not sure if that's true to life on the real Apache or not, actually. And then I'm going to get some external lighting going here. Form lights, signal lights, our primary and standby instruments. Floodlights will stay off for now. So now coming back over to our two little video screens here. We're going to be focusing on the one to the left right now. And I'll just quickly go over where we're going to be looking during our startup. So first is our TGT, our turbine gas temperature. We're obviously going to be monitoring that just like with any other turbine engine to make sure we don't get a hot start. And subsequently, we're going to be watching our NG, our central stage compressor the core of the engine to see what that's rotating at to make sure we don't get a hung start. Everything else we'll get into, obviously. Just a quick overview. There's torque. That's the torque that the output shaft of the gearbox is doing. TGT we just talked about. NP is the percent of your engine speed. And then in the center you have your main rotor speed. These will subsequently feed into this. Engine oil pressure in pounds per square inch, and hydraulic pressure, primary utility, and accumulator. I'm actually going to change to the aircraft fuel screen, and you can see our aux tank is disabled. I'm going to go ahead and turn on our auxiliary tank. Fuel transfer set to auto, crossfeed set to normal. Our fuel type is JP8. I don't even know if you can select different fuel types in DCS, but JP8 and JP9 are very similar to Jet A and Jet B, just different cold temperature ranges is essentially it. JP9 is a little more expensive, just like Jet B is a little bit more expensive, so you try to get away with Jet A or JP8 when you can. I'm going to turn our boost pumps to normal, and that'll be that. We'll go back to the TSD page. And we'll go ahead and begin our engine start. We've got our anti-collision and nav lights on. Engine starting. I'm sorry about this glitching nonsense. I'm working on doing an RMA on this HOTAS. It's breaking down in front of my very hands here. So, while I was complaining, a few different things happened. One, we got that rotor RPM low annunciator. I just cleared that up by clearing the master caution, and we're now at 24.1% NG, 24%. I introduce fuel. That's done by moving your condition levers from cutoff to idle. So we've got the left engine coming up now, and you can see our main rotor blade starting to spin. And we'll wait for a good light off. Let's see. EGT is decreasing while our engine speed increases to around 67-68%. So that's going to be a good light off there. TGT is slowly coming back up. Main rotor speed is at 46%. We're just going to wait for everything to stabilize out. So 8% torque, about 66% on the NG. Main rotor's right around 50% output, which is what we would expect. We do the same thing starting engine 2. And we're waiting for 24%. And here comes fuel now. And I am manually toggling the master caution and master warning lights. That annunciation will continue until either your NG rises above a certain percentage, or until you cancel that annunciator. It just drives me nuts, so I cancel it out myself. So everything's looking stabilized, which is what we want. So, before I move our condition levers to flight idle, I need to have both engine oil PSIs below 70. So while that's going on, I'm going to set up my CMDS panel, or CMWS panel. Do a bit. Leave that in bypass. We'll uncage our ADI. I should say our backup altitude indicator. Turn on our squelches. We're all set. We should be below 70% or 70 psi, which we are. So now I'm going to roll our throttle or our power levels into the flight position. So that low rotor RPM enunciation has gone away. Main rotor RPM is at 101%. And both of our engines are at 101% speed, 70% on the torque. So that's looking good there. With a successful startup, we'll go ahead and turn off our APU and we'll reguard that switch. And that is it for our startup. We're now ready to take off. So let's do a quick survey outside. It's going to get a little noisy. So we're pretty well boxed in on the front here. So I think what I'll do is back us out. No, we'll be able to take off here. So let me set that rear tail plane. Go back into the cockpit so you guys can watch it from there. And I have turned on the upper left-hand corner of the screen my controls reference indicator, so you guys can see as I move my cyclic or my anti-torque pedals, you can see those moving without me having to physically look at them, which is good. Alright, IHADS up. Give us a little bit of bearing here. I'm going to go ahead and pull back on our cyclic just a little bit. Add just a little bit of anti-torque pedal to the left. And we'll collective out here.
Radar.
Rearward movement.
Searching.
Alright. As I've said many a time before, I am not a very good rotorcraft pilot. I don't pretend to be, but I think this might just be the module to get me kind of back into it. I absolutely adore the Apache. And if there was ever a module that I could see myself flying long term, this would be it. So we're going to go ahead and get turned out for our first waypoint, which actually is marked on our IHADS. Start trimming our tailplane out. So we get a little bit less pressure on our cyclic. Now, trimming is obviously a must in helicopters. Trim to your own liking, obviously. I like to trim so I've got a little bit of nose down pressure on the cyclic to maintain level flight. It's just a personal preference. There is no real right or wrong way of trimming. It's whatever lets you fly with the least workload possible. But you are going to be seeing me putting in a little bit of forward cyclic for the vast majority of this flight. It's just a personal preference. Looks like I need to do some aligning of my bore sight for my FLIR. It is not properly aligned right now, so we'll just go without it this time around. This is a nice daytime flight, so like I mentioned before, the FCR, that big radome on the top of our main rotor, is not currently implemented. It's in the works. It's to be done, kind of like, you know, we saw the F-16 rollout. There was quite a bit that needed to be finished, or the F-18 that took quite a long time to leave early access. So we'll just kind of passively watch that. But, you know, right now there are plenty of weapon suites that you don't need the FCR for. Obviously, the aircraft is here and flying, so that's the big thing for a lot of us. I know I just wanted to get some stick time to get the general gist of controlling the aircraft, and then I can add the weapon systems later. That's how I learn a lot of these modules. Because once flying is a second nature item, you know, adding extra things to it becomes easy. Whereas if you're trying to learn everything at once, it's can be a little bit overwhelming. We'll say, and it's just a quick note, I'm using one of the default ED missions for this. It's the Cold and Dark in the Marianas map, so any of you guys who have the longbow will be able to do this. Obviously the Mariana Islands are a free DLC. And I'm pretty well pleased with the amount that they've put into kind of bringing a little bit of life to the island. I know for a lot of the earlier modules, it was basically, alright, here's your aircraft on the ramp. Nothing else. There you go. And they've added more and more just little moving assets as time has gone on, so I really appreciate stuff like that. It's like a couple of naval vessels. I'm not going to try to classify them because I'll call it like an Arleigh Burke. And you'll be like, no, that's Roosevelt class, you idiot. Okay, well, you got me. I don't know ships. So a couple of naval vessels. Wondering this one, yeah, that's too small of a pad. I mean, you might be able to get a Apache on there. I know I can't. See what's going on with this one. That's a bigger pad. Do you think we could get down on that? Probably not. Let's try anyway. I mean, space-wise, there's room, and there actually is a landing qual for the Apache as far as deck landing. Which I suppose, I mean, so this is technically an Army helicopter, but I could see someone, you know, in an emergency situation or something, you needing the ability to land on a ship. But from my understanding, a good majority of longbows, or good majority of Apaches, period, were land-based. This is a really unstable approach. I'm not liking it. There's gates. Why are there gates? We're not going to make it down there. Oh, and I almost hit the antenna. Yeah, we're aborting. There's a giant flag, but let me just real quick, just humor me. So, there is. So that is a helipad. But during a helicopter landing, the little ramps, or the gates, fences, whatever you want to call them, these guys, would be down. Either down or completely adjacent to the deck, so you could just fly straight over, and there wouldn't be a giant beam off of the back of the boat. So, for those reasons... Excuse me. For those reasons, we're aborting. Figured it wasn't worth the trouble, and I was correct. Continuing on with our tour flight. Ooh, those will be fun to shoot later. On our right-hand side, there's an island full of Chinese blow-em-up assets. I see some MBTs, I see a couple Scud launchers, some IFVs. Yeah, those will be fun. Oh, and some howitzers, or I guess self-propelled artillery, as they're known. As you might have seen when I was doing the intro earlier, you can fly... It's a radar warning. You can operate both the rear seat, the pilot, where we are now, as well as the front seat. I have bound nothing for the front seat yet. I want to get used to flying the helo from the rear seat, because that's where I'm going to spend most of my time. Then I can get into the gunner position. But in the Apache, you can fly, and I believe gun, from both the rear. I know you can fly from both the front and rear seats. That's in case, you know, your rear pilot takes a hit or something. Then you can fly. And I'm pretty sure you can gun from, at minimum, use the fixed weapons, so the gun, which head tracks, which literally doesn't make it fixed, and I'm also now realizing that all of the pylons on the Apache are swiveling, which would make them not fixed. Anything that doesn't require a laser designation, I'm pretty sure you can use in the front and the rear seat of the Apache. But don't quote me on that. That is old knowledge from an early 2000s to mid 2010s me. I actually did very little brush up on the Apache. Just because it's such an iconic aircraft. I don't want to say it's over-covered, but there's a lot of coverage on it, I'll say that much. And plus for me, especially when a new module comes out for DCS, I know it's never 100% true to life. It can be extremely accurate, but it's never going to be true to life. So in a lot of cases, I like to just go and kind of learn stuff on my own. That's actually what I did for the startup, and then I went and checked ED's video to make sure I wasn't missing anything critical. So in case you haven't noticed, the little waypoint marker on the lower left corner of my HUD tells me how far I am from which waypoint and how long it's going to take me to get there at my current speed. So I just passed waypoint 7, which is our final waypoint, and as I keep flying away, it's going to increase distance and increase speed. But we're all done with waypoint 7. I'm going to look for that FARP that we took off from. It should be somewhere around here.
8 o'clock. Searching.
I'm going to try to step back down in there. Something I've been tossing the idea around. Let me know if you guys would be interested, is doing live streaming of this stuff. So I'm obviously sitting in a room by myself talking to a camera. Not even talking to a camera, just talking into a microphone. Be curious to see if you guys would like to see the idea generation, the filming process, and the editing process for these videos that I do. So if that's something you'd be interested in, let me know. I already have a Twitch channel, I just don't use it for streaming. I just follow and sub over there to other folks. But that's something that could very easily be worked out if viewership was sustainable. Otherwise, I'm more than happy being able to sit and pause and, you know, cough and sneeze as I need to without a live audience mocking me. You know, they often say the easiest part of flying a helicopter is just that. It's the takeoff and the landing that's the most difficult. The takeoff part I kind of disagree with. Landing, yes. Absolutely. It is, for me at least, very, very difficult to balance your descent rate with the amount of collective you have in, because there is no just recovering energy, you know, by pulling the stick up. You pull the stick up, your aircraft pitches up, and nothing else happens.
Hawk. 10 o'clock. Searching.
And so our parking spot is still vacant. Which is good. We're dead. We're dead. Hey, you guys get to see the crash damage. Alright, alright.
Rotor RPM high.
Engines to shut off.
Rotor RPM low.
We're just shaking to death. Yes, you remember before when I said if there was a situation where you wanted to get the rotor RPM down quickly and use the rotor brake? This is that situation.
Rotor RPM low.
Yeah, well. Hey guys, that's the longbow. Crashed, sad, and dead. Nonetheless, I'll get better at landing, get better at flying, and hopefully this sort of thing won't happen anymore. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know what you think about live streams, and I will catch you in the next one. I'm going to edit this, and then I'm going to go lay down for the next 4 hours. Just as I'm going to do, you two should take it easy.